Hello, everyone. Welcome on into the Wolverine podcast, a special edition of the Wolverine podcast. Anthony Broom here with Clayton Safey. We pre-recorded this a few days ahead of time. We'll have a special guest today. On3's Pickell will join us on the show with we've got a wide-ranging array of questions here for him. So excited to talk to JD about Michigan, some national storylines, maybe get to know him a little more as a guy outside of just being, an all-encompassing ball knower. But Clayton, welcome back.
Yeah, great to be here. Excited to talk to JD. He's the man.
Before we get into our interview with JD Pickell, some quick housekeeping notes. Of course, we are brought to you every Monday by our friends over at HomefieldApparel.com. Use that promo code Wolverine for 15% off your first order over at HomefieldApparel.com. Weather's changing. Clayton Safey last week declared it the start of summer, which means you got to get some lighter clothes in your repertoire there. Homefield stuff is as light and breathable as it comes. Vintage inspired collection with all sports represented, really. I'm looking at a 1989 National Champs basketball t-shirt, plenty of football stuff. They have a baseball jersey in the store now. That's brand new. Couple cool hats. They've got the 1984 Michigan baseball snapback hat, which has that skinny M, same kind of M that Sherrone Moore and Jim Harbaugh have wore on their heads over the years. So whatever you want over there. And it might not even be Michigan. You might be a Central Michigan guy. You might be an Ohio State fan that's watching us because you want to get some of the intel, some of the goodies from behind the Michigan and territory, I should say. So use that promo code Wolverine to get 15% off your first order today over at HomefieldApparel.com. We are also brought to you by ourselves, the Michigan football preview. We just wrapped our last magazine before the football preview, so now it's full speed ahead with the football preview with Bryce Underwood on the cover, as you can see if you're watching on the screen. Order before June 16. For bigger savings, you go to the bit.ly, for those of you in the know, bit.ly/UM-show. We'll save you a little money on some shipping there. And if you're a member of the Fort, using that promo code UM1, which gets you 2 months of access to our site for $1, you're going to get even more savings with that. But you got to be on the Fort because that offer is only there. So it all ties together. It's all interconnected. Join our site today, and you're going to save money on being a member of our site. You're going to save money on your football preview, and you're going to be as well studied as anyone in the Michigan fan market. So that's enough chitter chatter from me. I think it's now time to bring in our special guest, JD Pickell. He is with On3 National. You see him all over YouTube, social media. National voice, always has good things to say about Michigan. He's a pro-Michigan guy as far as I know. So we'd like to have him here. But JD, welcome in.
Fellow, this is awesome. I'm juiced to be on here. Long-time listener. I think I was going to say first-time guest, but I've definitely been on with y'all a few times. This is a blast to get this back going again. I want to also brag really quick on Clayton because after the spring game, I reached out to him. I was like, hey, brother, I know it's on a tape delay. We want to kind of do a reaction to the intel. Can you, do you have 5 minutes to jump on the phone or whatever? He's like, man, I'm writing most of the day, but let me circle back with you. Get a voice memo the next morning, maybe it was, or that night. It's a 20-minute podcast from the guy. Just absolute, just bars. So I don't think I saw it till the next morning, which is on me. He sent it that night. So dude writes a story, watches the spring game, sends me 20 minutes of just insight. So I'm smarter because of y'all. Juiced to be on here with y'all. And yeah, man, excited to talk some ball with you guys.
I haven't even gotten that type of intel from Clay, and I work with the guys.
You were there.
So. It's true. That's true.
JD, how would you rate Anthony's ad reads there? Because you're the king at it.
Oh, I mean, out of 10, that's got to be a 13. That. I mean, that was. No. I haven't shopped.
I'm feeling the love over here.
To. I'd like to. After that ad read, I would like to.
No, you got more reps than I do. But let me just say, I'm going to gas you up a little bit before we get into questions. I think this is why. I think a big reason that you come across as knowledgeable as you do when you do these videos is that you will reach out to Clayton. You've reached out to me. We've talked ball on the phone for 20 minutes, half hour before.
Absolutely.
There are so many guys in this industry, especially if you quote unquote new media, who the joke online is podcast equipment needs to be more expensive. Guys will just buy a USB microphone, spout some stuff off, and we do a lot of that, by the way. I'm not disparaging that, but JD, I think, when you are in a national seat, it's tough it's pretty easy to get spread pretty thin, but JD puts in the work. He asks questions. Not that our perspective is all knowing and the gospel truth all the time, but JD puts in the work. He gets to know these teams that he's not going on the air talking about a team without doing his research or having talked to, guys that are around it every day. So I just want to give you your flowers for that right up front. I think a lot of people appreciate that. And I think it's why your platform has grown the way it has.
I appreciate that. And not to beat the dead horse, but being able to talk to y'all, like I can count on one hand, or maybe I don't know if I can count on any hands, the times that I've reached out to you, Anthony. You've been like, no, bro, sorry, I don't have time to chop it up with you. So I've taken, I think there's been multiple calls too where I've hit you up, Anthony, and been like, hey, bro, do you have 10 minutes? And then we go for like 30 or 40. So I appreciate y'all, man. And I appreciate y'all doing what you do on the site and making the Michigan faithful able to satiate their appetite when we don't have an excess of things going on at this point in the year. So no, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate y'all being such great teammates. I'm juiced.
Well, let's get to know you a little bit. Like, we know you. People that watch your stuff know you, but there's still that Venn diagram of people who aren't quite familiar with you. So we're gonna start with some questions about you.
Oh man, okay.
You're a former college football player. What's the path that led you from playing college football, and now fast forward to today, you're at a place like On3 doing these videos and kind of emerging as one of the lead voices nationally on that platform?
Man, well, I appreciate that. It's a bit of an obscure one in a lot of ways. When I went to school, played my college football undergrad at Cornell, and there was no broadcasting major. And so for me, like, that was sort of always the end goal, was to be able to do something on camera, or whether it was writing. Like we all kind of have, I think, the same starting point for a lot of us. It's, we love sports, we want to be around sports, we want to work in sports, but the path from that frame of mind to actually doing it isn't quite as lined out as it is for, the investment banker crowd or the people that do insurance or whatever. It's not to knock those professions at all. It's just our path to what we do now is a little bit more obscure. So for me, it started, playing college football, got to do a graduate transfer walk-on with Baylor when Matt Rule was there. And for me, like, did all of summer one, summer two. I'm excited to, finish out my last year of playing college football and figure out what happens after that. And ended up having to medically retire due to concussions during the first week of fall camp, I want to say it was. So at that point, I'm like, I'm in Waco, Texas. I'm not here playing the sport that I actually came here to play. I'm doing a journalism graduate program, but pretty quickly figured out I don't think that was going to be something that was going to be worth the loans I was taking out to get that degree. So pretty quickly became like a grad school dropout. And fortunately enough for me, there was a fan site that covered Baylor called Sikkim 365 that had a YouTube channel, and they invited me to do some post-game stuff with them. And yeah, there it is, man. How about that? I mean, a face only a mother could love right there, man. Yeah, just disheveled and rolling through Waco, Texas, in their locker room at Baylor. But yeah, man. I mean, so I'm extremely grateful to those guys at Sikkim for allowing me to get in front of a camera. I don't know if I was good or not, boys, for the first year to year and a half, and but they were fortunate, or they were kind to me. I was fortunate to be able to be around them, and be able to use their studio and get reps. And to put a long story short, the power of social media. You put the right clips on the right formats and then the right social media platforms, I guess I should say, and it all worked out to, I guess, the right people at On3 saw it and got offered a job to move to Nashville, and my wife was kind enough and crazy enough to be on board. So fast forward the tape, a few years later, here we are.
Yeah, JD, I wanted to ask you, the transfer from Cornell, where you played with somebody I know, Mason Banbury from Grand Rapids, Michigan, East Grand Rapids. You go from there to Baylor, play for Matt Rule. Michigan's got a guy coming from Princeton this year, Johnny Volker, who's a running back, special teamer from, played for the Tigers, is super fast, weight room type of guy. And now he's coming to this stage. So I guess, what were the biggest differences from Ivy League to Power 5, facilities wise, like intensity wise, just everything around it, like how much more it meant maybe in a city like Waco than at Cornell.
I think just and this is not to knock any of the Ivy League institutions, but a lot of those guys that are in those locker rooms at a Cornell or a Princeton, the majority of those guys understand, hey, when I finish playing my last game here at whatever school I'm at in this conference, it's probably my last time suiting up. Whereas at a place like Baylor, a place like Michigan, every single person, whether they're going to or not, their goal is to go play in the NFL. So I think the level of maybe energy you give to the sport, the level of resources that the school is giving back to the student athletes, there's just a pretty wide gap there. And this, again, I keep saying, like, I don't want to knock, Cornell, I don't want to knock Princeton, but just the amount the school cares about football at a place like Michigan relative to a place like Princeton or Cornell, I think that gap is pretty wide. It's almost like playing at two different levels of football, which I guess it is, from FCS to FBS. But yeah, I mean, the speed of the game is different. I think the training table too, boys, like being able to walk into a cafeteria and have like an athlete cafeteria as opposed to a dining hall that you see the kid from your economics class in. Very, very different. Very different. Yeah, worlds apart. But Volker, man, I know his brother was also a running back at Princeton. He lit us up a few times, man. I remember. I think he I want to say he's like doing U.S. bobsled now. Like he's an Olympian or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Nuts. Athletic family, good genes. Can't say I have anything good to say about Princeton, but good gift for Michigan nonetheless.
Apparently, when John Volker, who you're right, his older brother, kind of same path. When he was in the portal, he was working out, and he was either working out to try out for the Olympic bobsled team, which his brother is on, or go somewhere. And he got the call from Michigan and visited. And I guess the thing that impressed him the most was the indoor hill that Michigan has in the weight room. Like he's just that type of guy where like NIL, whatever, everything else, who cares? I want to run on this indoor hill. So, he's definitely like a football guy through and through. And it'll be interesting to see like what kind of role, maybe special teams, kick return, something like that he can carve out. But I wanted to ask you about Matt Rule too. What excuse will he have this year if Michigan beats them without a head coach?
That's a good way to put it. I guess the excuse you would make, if I'm answering that like in a literal sense, is, hey, we're still building this thing up. We're still getting our core talent. I mean, I don't think he'll make any excuses though, dude. Like that guy is as intense.
I was just trying to get you in trouble.
Football person. Yeah, no, I love it. I absolutely love it. Dude, he's just so intense. Like I say this all the time. He is exactly what Baylor needed when he got there, because y'all remember that everything went down with the previous staff and, how everything was rolling at Baylor. Like there were people in Waco that wanted the death penalty for Baylor football. Like that was a conversation. And then he gets there, they win 1 or 2 games his first year. By the time he leaves, they're playing for a Big 12 title. So he is as intense of a football person as there is, but the structure he brings, his dedication to the process. I'm going to get in trouble talking about Nebraska on a Michigan football podcast, but I could not say enough good things about like his organization and his dedication to it. I'm really excited to see what Nebraska is here in the future. Whether it be Michigan or not, I'm excited to see what they are in the future.
There's never a bad place for that. Our producer is a Nebraska fan, so that one's for her too. I want to go back to sort of the time with On3's so far, and again, obviously there's been huge announcements of late with the acquisition of rivals and kind of just this vision that Shannon Terry has had for what this place could be coming to fruition. A question I wanted to ask you was, you are. There's not many guys that are down in the office. It's kind of a crack team of guys down there.
Sure.
From your perspective, and you guys have been in a few offices at this point, but what has it been like to help build a brand from the ground up in an era where, there are so many outlets now and so many projects that, some of them don't even get off the ground. Now, a place like this is kind of growing bigger than it's ever been and will continue to get bigger. I mean, what's it been like to be, almost literally at the ground floor of that?
I think the word I would use is it's exciting, right? To be able to be on a team with other people that have tremendous vision and have, let's call a spade here, done it before at a really high level. I think for me, that was one of the biggest exciting, factors in coming to a place like On3 is, when you sign up to work for Shannon Terry, it's like committing to Nick Saban. Like, hey, we're probably going to win a few natties here. You just play your role. You keep your head down, and like things are going to probably break our way as a team. And I think that's been the biggest thing, man. Like, I don't know that I would say my role has been, any bigger than anybody else as a part of what's going on here at On3. I'm just happy I keep saying this, I'm happy that my key card works every day and I get to come in the office and be a part of a winning team. And as long as Shannon Terry's running the show, man, y'all could attest to this. Good things are going to happen. So grateful to have a seat on the bus and a spot on the roster. And I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but genuinely the amount that everyone in this office gives to the greater good of the brand and the mission and the vision of this, super exciting. And I think another word in addition to exciting would be humbling. So it's been a blast, man. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, we'll wind up putting a time step in here for people who actually want to hear what we have to talk about with Michigan football. So here we are. I want to move to Michigan's week 2 opponent, Oklahoma. I saw you recently kind of hyping them up in regards to, updated Vegas win totals and things like that. What are your thoughts on this Sooners program, and what are you going to be watching when those two teams play in week 2?
Dude, that's the thing. I love Oklahoma. Like, transparently, last season, we do our whole win-loss thing over on the social media short form platforms like Instagram and TikTok. We'll do record predictions under 60 seconds. And last year I had Oklahoma at 6-6 before the season started. And you would have thought that I cursed the state of Oklahoma, or that I said something bad about everybody's month of the state of Oklahoma. I mean, they came for my head. And so I say that because this year I'm almost on the opposite end of the spectrum. And people are like, this guy is just hyping up Oklahoma for clicks. And he just this guy's sunshine pumping Oklahoma. And I'm like, hey, this time last year, this wasn't what was really being said. But what I will say is I love so much the way they are on paper right now, which in the month of May, I think is all you really have to go off of, in addition to how you feel about a staff. I love John Mateer, and what he brings, in my opinion, is everything they were missing last year, both on the field and in that locker room. Didn't it feel a little bit like watching Oklahoma? There was no swag, there was no extra juice. There wasn't that like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray kind of feel to it. And I'm not in the locker room, so I can't speak to that authoritatively, but watching it, that's kind of how it felt. I think John Mateer is all of the opposite of that. Belief, toughness, swag, energy, all those things. And so that in itself, I think, will benefit all of his teammates and benefit and re-energize that room, or that locker room, I should say. And then from what he brings on the field, like Oklahoma last year, they played Michael Hawkins Jr. because they couldn't protect Jackson Arnold. Like, whether he was the better quarterback in shorts and t-shirt or not, like 13% sack rate, you have a hard time getting the play started. So I think the offensive line, you hope, is better, but even if they're not totally fixed, I think you have enough to work with Mateer's mobility, which I think is going to be a game breaker for them in a lot of ways. So that week 2 matchup, man, with Underwood's first start on the road, I'm assuming here, and Sherrone Moore's return to Norman, plus this new look Sooners, it's gonna be a good one, boys. I'm juiced for it.
Yeah, one of the unique things about that weekend will be if things hold the way Michigan's proposing a potential 2-game suspension for Sherrone Moore in weeks 3 and 4. That Sunday, he kind of goes away for 2 weeks. If things play out this way, like from you being in the spot at Baylor and at Cornell. And I remember talking to Jake Butt about this a couple of years ago before Jim Harbaugh's first suspension in 2023 about what a head coach does on game day. But now the rules changed where if you're suspended for a game, you're suspended for that entire week as well. Like, this may be a dumb question, but could you take us through from a player's perspective, like how important it is, or what the head coach's role is throughout a week and on game day, and how important it is to have the head coach out there? Especially maybe early in a year when maybe your routine and your rhythm isn't what it will be towards the end.
I think every program is probably different to some extent as to how their head coach operates on game day. Like Steve Sarkisian's calling the plays for Texas, so obviously his impact on game is a little bit greater. But I think the phrase that comes to mind for me that probably fits across the board is tone setter. Like, you get off the bus, you're looking at your head coach, how is he, what's his vibe? Is he walking out with a level of confidence? Is there some energy? Is there, all the cliches, all the unquantifiables? I think that's kind of the temperature that's set on game day. But if he's not calling plays, it's not a thing to where you necessarily feel their presence as much. To me, it was always more for us at Cornell, more of like a check-in with the head coach. Good drive. Head coach comes over if he's not calling plays, and he's saying, hey, what'd you see out there? Hey, we like this. We don't like this. And just sort of a level almost of like composure that's added to it. But my biggest question here for Michigan at that spot in their season is, how much have you game planned for Oklahoma from this point in the year through fall camp up to that game week? And then also, outside of the games with Nebraska and Central Michigan and things of that nature, how much are you prepping for those games? Because I have to believe what's true right now about Nebraska in week 3 of the season or week 4 of the season is going to be different than what's true right now about them at this point during, entering into, as Clayton Safety mentioned, the start of summer. So, because coaches will game plan for teams, as y'all know, like very, very far in advance, but that game plan obviously shifts a bit by the time it's actually time for the game to be played. So I don't know if that answers your question, Clayton. There's a lot of thoughts there, but to put it simply, tone setter on game day, game plan during the week, how much does that switch leading into the foreseeable suspension from Sherrone Moore?
No, it definitely does. I think the scary part for a 2-week suspension like this with not being able to be around for the week is that they'll play a game against Central Michigan in week 3, and then kind of that Sunday and Monday when you have to evaluate the prior game and start the game plan for the next game, like you just won't have your general with you. And, they have experience on the staff. Chip Lindsey's been a head coach before. Biff Poggi is back on the staff, which I think was a huge addition, especially now considering the suspension. Wink Martindale's been around football forever. They can get it done, but it's just different. Like it's Sherrone Moore's program and he won't be there. And that's pretty unique. So I think that did answer it. That's good stuff.
Well, what I was going to add in there, and you guys have mentioned this a lot on the side as well, about how he's not going to be there during the week to do the game planning, whereas Jim Harbaugh was there during the week, just going to be there on game day. The big thing for Michigan when Harbaugh was there, as I'm sure y'all mentioned when this was all going down, was like that was a veteran locker room with a lot of leadership already there. Not saying that's not going to be the case for Michigan in 2025, but it's going to be early. Like if you're playing a true freshman quarterback, you're looking to some of those guys internally to step up, be the leader, set the tone, kind of steady the ship a little bit. I'm really, really curious to hear about where they're at weeks 3 and 4 coming out of a spot like that. And let's imagine the worst case here. I don't know if that's a positive thing to do right now, but if you drop a game to Oklahoma before Sherrone Moore pivots out for his suspension, how much does that impact the psyche of the locker room? How much do you have to steady yourself? Because I think if you beat Oklahoma, it's going to be a lot easier to ride that momentum, ride that belief, good vibes into, the game against Central Michigan and ultimately Nebraska.
I think part of it's helpful too, in that Michigan is looking to self-impose this. So from an operational perspective, maybe, you're just part of your off-season planning is getting your staff the reps of, hey, this is what this is going to look like, almost like a mock situation room type of exercise, I guess. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, piggybacking off of Sherrone Moore, and, last year was a bit of a transitional year, but ends on the highest note imaginable in that last month of the season. You land Bryce Underwood, you drop a 50-burger on Northwestern that nobody saw that coming. You beat Ohio State, you beat Alabama in the bowl game shorthanded, which kind of felt affirming of what the last 2 weeks of the season were. What was your perspective on last year under Sherrone Moore, and what's on the line for him from a national perspective this year? Clayton and I have both kind of said that, there was some grace, or there was, it's weird. It's been this roller coaster where there was this honeymoon period, then you start 5-5, but then you have the last month of the season that you land Bryce Underwood. So now it's all of this juxtaposed against a potential suspension that they might be dealing with. Michigan kind of needs to win this year, and he might not be out there for part of it. So I guess, from your perspective, what do you think of the start of the Sherrone Moore era, and how do you view this program this year?
My initial thought is just what you said with the way they finished last year. I remember even after the Ohio State game, I remember thinking this is probably as bad as Michigan's going to be under Sherrone Moore from a talent perspective. Like, I would be shocked if we're sitting here in 3 years and saying, man, Michigan just doesn't have the guys this year, especially with how they're recruiting, with what seems to be the NIL activation, all those things. And so if that's the case, and you're still beating Ohio State, who won the national championship, and you still beat Alabama, shorthanded like you mentioned. Alabama had their opt-outs, whatever. Like, what's keeping you from, with a serviceable quarterback, even if he's a true freshman in Bryce Underwood, what's keeping you from going on and winning at an even higher level in 2025? And I totally get that college football is a wacky sport, and sometimes, as we all know, things that make sense in May don't make sense when we get to October and November. And so there's some degree of that to account for. But on paper, if that's what Michigan was a year ago with all the talent, even if it's young, I don't see a reason why Michigan can't make some noise and be a team that's knocking on the back door of the college football playoff. Like, I don't know if they're going to, be there for the Big Ten title game. I suppose they could, and a lot of that will happen with what Bryce Underwood is and what they have around him. But just the DNA of this team to me still feels so, for lack of a better phrase or label, like Harbaugh-ish, which I think is tied to Sherrone more-ish. Tough, make you say uncle, physical, win line of scrimmage, all the cliches. And I think as cliche as it is cliche because it's true, and it's been true of what Sherrone Moore football teams are. Now you add in a all-everything potential, quarterback in Bryce Underwood. So it's weird to say, but I do think, just like you mentioned, it is sort of like, okay, it's year 2 for you, true freshman quarterback maybe, but like, let's go win right now for Michigan. Let's go be a team that finds their way in the playoff right now.
After that Ohio State game, I think a lot of the takes were very similar to what you just said, which is, this might be the worst Sherrone Moore team, and they just beat Ohio State. And then from an Ohio State perspective, you started getting the columns and the articles of, if not now, when. And people were saying the same thing about Michigan several years ago, and then they end up getting over the hump eventually. So, it's a little over dramatic, I think, that part of it. Not saying you said that.
No, yeah, it's fair.
But how much of your confidence in a lot of those takes came out after, Bryce Underwood had committed 2 weeks before that. So that was a huge, piece of context that has to be noted there. And then just what Wink Martindale did with that defense at the end of the year to hold Ohio State to 10 points. It was their fewest amount of points in a regular season game since I think 2011. That was the Luke Pickell year when he was the interim. So it was just kind of a unique season. So really a long, long time when they've had a normal year, a good team that's contending like they do every season. They've never been held to that. Like Bryce Underwood and Wink Martindale, in addition to, Sherrone getting this team up for big games and the things we've already talked about, like how much confidence do you have in Michigan, almost based solely on those two things? Like how important are those two names for Michigan football going forward?
I think that's it, right? Like, I think that's the formula. And we did a segment, I want to say it was this past week or so on the show, talking about expectations for Bryce Underwood and just thoughts around him from the spring game. And a lot of it's projection, of course, because we've seen the guy play spring football, and that's kind of it when it comes to him playing college football. But I left that spring game, or I left watching that spring game back, I should say, feeling like, man, if he keeps trending the direction he is trending right now, he doesn't look sped up. He doesn't look like he doesn't know what he's looking at. He throws the ball with authority. Like, it's a confident player, but actually playing confident, I think, is a different thing. If he keeps trending this way, I don't think he's the governor for Michigan football. I think the governor would be, okay, do we have the skill players around him to maximize what this guy is? Do we have the right pieces on the offensive line to maximize what he is? But Bryce Underwood, not to say he's ready-made or a finished product, but I think he's good enough right now to go win for you at Michigan. I truly believe that. And then you pair that with what you just said about Wink Martindale and the talent they have back on defense, even with losing 3 first-round potential. I guess it was 2 first-round draft picks, but a guy that would have gone in the first round in Will Johnson. It's all there. It's all there to where I don't think there's a reason to have to lower expectations for Michigan, as bizarre as that sounds when you're playing a true freshman quarterback, if that makes sense. So to answer your question, like that is the formula. Wink Martindale, Bryce Underwood, and everything else on top of that is what will be, how far Michigan goes.
JD, what are your most interesting non-Bryce storylines? And I guess to piggyback off the last one, non-Wink Martindale storylines as well for this Michigan team this year?
I would say Donovan McCulley, but that feels like it almost ties back into Bryce Underwood. So I'll go another direction. That running back room between Jordan Marshall and what he did in the bowl game, and then Justice Haynes, who I think everybody who actually watched Bama last year was like, hey, that guy maybe should get the football more. It feels very much so it's not Corum and Edwards because that's a very lofty comparison, but I don't think that it's going to be a very, I feel like, Michigan brand sort of running back room 1-2 punch, if that's fair to say. Like, I think those two dudes are almost flying under the radar a touch. Y'all have a better pulse for it than me, but it feels like nationally we're not talking about the ridiculous bowl game Jordan Marshall had and the fact that Justice Haynes was, I want to say, 4+ yards a carry kind of guy at Bama last year, with the pedigree of what his family is. I think his dad was all everything I shouldn't say all everything. His dad was a good player at Georgia. There's a lot there. So I think those two guys kind of keeping the Michigan toughness traits offensively and not having to take a step back there. And then you pair that with Bryce Underwood. That's what gets me excited about Michigan. I think that's going under the radar personally.
To Bryce Underwood, Andy and Ari from On3 as well, they did a breakdown of the top quarterbacks returning in college football last year. And DJ Lagway was number 1 for both of them. So it wasn't just an Andy Staples, Florida thing, former player. And, Lagway was number 3 overall recruit last year, number 1 quarterback. Michigan now has the number 1 overall recruit, number 1 quarterback in this year's class. And, Lagway took over halfway through the year last season, kind of changed the game for them, probably helped save Napier's job. I would imagine just the outlook of what the next couple of years could look like with him. Do you see Bryce Underwood? I know he'll probably start from day one, so it'll be different. He'll be thrown into the fire, but he'll also have more games under his belt to prove himself. Like, do you think he could be is it realistic to say, okay, he's maybe a top 30 quarterback in the country next year, top 25, something like that? Because they're, going down the list last year, like it was pretty 25, 30 deep for guys you really like. And then, potentially going into the next season being number 1 or 2, something like that. Then you're talking real game changer and real national title hopes potentially.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy by any stretch of the imagination. And I think the interesting point that you just brought up between Lagway and Bryce Underwood, when DJ Lagway got past the keys to the Florida offense, we're still talking about, is Billy Napier going to get fired? Are we sure that he's going to be there next year? Even with the vote of confidence from the powers that be at Florida, I was still like, if this thing goes off the rails even further now, I don't know that Billy Napier is still your head coach when we kick things off in week 1 in 2025. Like, Bryce Underwood, while there's still some things we're waiting to see around him offensively, as we've said now a few times, it feels like a pretty stable situation to walk into relative to what DJ Lagway had to walk into. So to drive that whole thought home around, could he be a top 25 quarterback in college football next year? I think absolutely, for the sheer fact that just psychologically and roster-wise, he's going to have a strong defense behind him. Florida's defense was not that great last year in the SEC. Like, they were timely, but they weren't like great statistically speaking. The run game behind Bryce Underwood should be superior. So all those things to where he should have support enough, better than DJ Lagway had support, to where I think Bryce Underwood absolutely has all the tools to be a top 25 in the country kind of guy next year.
JD, you watched the spring game. I gave you the voice memo before you got a chance to watch it. Like, I'm curious, just thinking of this now, like, what – because I told you right off the bat, I said his completion percentage was under 50%. People are going to freak out. He might get clowned online or whatever. You saw some Ohio State fans put it out there. I didn't take, like, any stock into that. I saw some good throws that were not completions. I saw some completions that were, not as impressive as some of the incompletions. So, was that correct? Like, what did you actually see from him when you got to actually go and watch that game?
Yeah, well, one, having the Spark Notes to work with and watch it back was really helpful. But to me, my biggest takeaway was this is not a high school football player that is now having to play college football. This is a true freshman quarterback who is a college football player, and he's figuring out college football to some extent. But my biggest takeaway, I guess, like scouting report, bullet point for him was he didn't look sped up. He didn't look jittery. He didn't look, out of sorts. And you see that a lot sometimes from early enrollee true freshman quarterbacks, is they get out there and they got a crowd and they got someone on the PA and it's going to be nationally televised. And there's a little bit of, running around with, your head cut off kind of vibe to it. I didn't see that from Bryce Underwood. And that's not saying he played a perfect game, but he's just, like I said, thrown with conviction. He knows where to go with the football when there's pressure. He gets pressure and he's not looking to run right away. He's keeping his eyes downfield, just like subtle things to where he looked very poised, which I think says a lot about a guy his first time out in the big house playing college football. So there's that part of it. And there's also, like you mentioned with the completion percentage thing, there's a few plays where you're like, man, that's just a drop. There's also a few plays where you're like, hey, that's actually a good football. Tough catch, sure, but like a college receiver in the Big Ten probably should come down with that one. You know, there was a play, I want to say it was like high red zone. He's rolling right, throwing right. And it was, I forget who the receiver was. It might have been Fred Moore, who I'm high on. I don't remember exactly who it was, but he's throwing like a comeback route back towards the front of the pylon, and it's high and away. But receiver, it's like, man, maybe I guess tough catch, but like you probably got to come down with that. All that's to say, good ball, good decision by Bryce Underwood, which made me feel like, okay, if this is the jumping off point after 15 practices, I guess it was less than that during the spring. What are you going to be when we get 20 practices in fall camp? What are we going to be after 1 month into the college football season? So I'm excited about the trajectory of him just from that spring game.
I want to move back nationally, just in terms of you look at these way too early top 25s. And I think the closest thing to maybe a consensus top team we've seen is Penn State, but there's been a lot of fluidity in those. I just, from your perspective, do you think that this is the most wide open college football has ever been? I mean, for years it was, yeah, Alabama might not have this, but they still got these guys waiting in the wings. Same with Georgia. Yeah. Ohio State was like that last year. And that's not to say that a lot of the very familiar blue chip programs won't still be in the mix, but this feels to me at least the most wide open it's been without, you know, it used to be, there might be 3 or 4 teams that could win a national title. Now it's, you know, you're probably getting closer to 8, 9, you know, in the right set of circumstances.
Yeah. No, I think you said that perfectly. And that's the exact same thought I've had around it. If you look at the betting favorites to win the national championship, which put as much stock into that as you want in Vegas, right? There's a reason there's skyscrapers in the desert. But of those top 20 betting favorites, 13 of them are going to have a new quarterback. Now, at a place like Texas, we think Arch Manning is going to be good, but there's no guarantee. I told you, I think Oklahoma with John Mateer is going to be awesome. There's no guarantee. Saying at Ohio State, all those things. And so you have that paired with some of these dark horse, if I can put that label on them, kind of teams that maybe they're not your routine national title appearing teams, but talk about South Carolina and Lenore Sellers. I bought all the stock I can find of that guy. We talk about Clemson, who's, been in the national championship multiple times and won multiple national titles under Dabo Swinney, but with Cade Klubnik now, could they make a move? So it's that perfect storm to what you just mentioned, to where I think this will be the most wide open we've seen college football. Like Georgia, Bama, I'm forgetting other teams here too. Ohio State, I already mentioned. The Big 12 actually is intriguing to where I want to say they have close to half of that conference coming back at quarterback, to where they could mess around and maybe, this is crazy, but do they get 2 teams into the college football playoff because they've got some stability at quarterback? I don't know. So I do think it'll be the most wide open it's been. If we're talking about college football seasons as family members, I don't know if it's like a brother to the 2007 season, but maybe like a distant wacky cousin to the 2007 season is going to be 2025, in my opinion.
JD, I got one on that front, just from a perspective of some of these other power conferences. Anthony, you mentioned Penn State. I think we all kind of know who's going to be in the mix in the Big Ten, but from each of the other 3 power conferences, maybe what's your one favorite or 1 or 2 from each of those right now? I know that could change. Obviously, there's still a lot of offseason to go.
Yeah, I think the SEC, to me, it's hard to not say Texas, and it's not because of Arch. It's because I think that defense is going to be really nasty, and I think Sark as a recruiter has built enough around him to where they're going to be able to just kind of pick up and have some stability around him. I think in the ACC, I don't want to go super chalk here, but it's tough for me to not pick Clemson after a year where they win the conference and they bring back pretty much everybody. So I'll, as of right now, I'll go chalk and say Clemson. The Big 12 is fascinating. I've said ASU to keep in this theme of being chalky, but call me a homer, but I think Baylor, man, is going to be going to be a force in that conference. Now, do they end up winning the conference? I don't know, but Arizona State comes to McLean Stadium. I want to say it's the first month of the season. If not, it's the first week of October. That's going to be one that has massive conference title implications. So, it really does come down to what do you get at quarterback in the Big 12? Is it Sawyer Robertson at Baylor taking over? Does Sam Leavitt pick up where he left off last year? It's going to be exciting. So those three, Clemson, ASU, and Texas, kind of chalky right now. We'll keep digging, but that's probably where I'd lean as we sit here in the month of May.
Why is the Big 12? I feel like any team could win it. Why is it like that every year? Especially now, because they added some teams. Pac-12 was kind of like that too. So now they added some of those teams.
Man, it's a great question. I don't have the answer to. My knee-jerk thought is the SEC and the Big Ten, it feels like there is almost tiers of recruiting. Like Michigan now is, elevated to what I would call tier 1 in recruiting. They're going to be in the top 10. Ohio State, same deal. Penn State's flirted with that. They've got their dude factor up a little bit. But outside of those three plus Oregon, you're like, okay, USC's climbing up there. Can they get to that tier? We'll see. The Big 12, it feels like to me, is all recruiting the same kind of player. Like they're all kind of in that 4-star, maybe a 5-star here and there, but some 3-star guys. And so the lack of, I guess, talent disparity, I think makes that conference as wacky as it is. And hopefully, for us as college football fans, it's a rerun of what we got last year. And it's just a lot of great games. And we're staying up till 1 a.m. watching BYU and Utah get after it and Arizona State and Arizona get after it. It's just a wonderful viewing experience.
As someone who has work responsibilities on those Saturdays, there's nothing better than getting done with our work and then getting one of those crazy games late night. Because I'll stay up late because I missed a lot of the football. And then you watch the highlights, you listen to Andy and Ari at night. But there's nothing better. So I was sad about the Pac-12 dissolving, but we're getting a little bit of that with the Big 12. So
you watch the Big 12.
Yeah.
Dude, they carry the mantle, right? Like the Pac-12 goes down and the second string Big 12 steps up, man, with a couple of Pac-12 members and just put college football on its back real quick and just carried us, man. It was big time response from the Big 12 there, dude. Huge.
Let's talk college football playoff. What were some of the biggest pros from going to 12 teams? What were some of the pitfalls? And I guess from there, a lot of buzz now that we're going to expand to 16 here sooner rather than later. So thoughts on the state of the playoff, JD?
I'm trying my hardest to not just be a complainer about this whole thing because I was never for 12. So complaining in my family growing up was like, that's a great way to get, punished, get grounded or whatever it was. I think the 12-team playoff for what it was really fun. As college football fans, it was really fun to say, okay, we got SMU at Penn State, here, then we got Arizona State and Texas here. Like those are made for a lot of fun matchups. Did it make for the regular season having the most true to college football sickos, factors to it as it's had in the past? Probably not. Like in the old playoff, and this isn't saying that Ohio State shouldn't have still won the national championship, but that loss to Michigan is like, okay,
you can say that here, by the way.
Yeah, you're not playing for it. You're not going to go on a run and go play for a national championship. Now, what I will say is maybe a benefit to the 12-team playoff is it has allowed for teams from the course of late August, September into November and December to evolve and respond and find their footing. And I do think in some ways, while some of it's going to be like just who's hot at the right time, I do think the most talented teams will kind of find themselves at the end of this thing just because of the fact that I think with this new format, with you having mulligans, it's just going to be that talent finding their like I said, finding their footing. Like Ohio State, it was never a matter of do they have the best roster in the country? It was, are they going to play like they have the best roster in the country? And it took a few games. It took a loss to Michigan to kind of have the lights come on to where they go on this run, win 4 games, and look incredible doing it. And we're all like, why were they the 8 seed going into this thing? That made no sense. So if I could give my biggest gripe, it would be, I think auto bids for conferences is ridiculous. I think we should just have it be straight and say, if ranking 1 through 12, let's go from there. If it's 8 Big 10 teams, if it's 4 Big 12 teams, cool, let's roll. Let's have that be the way that this goes. I don't like rewarding a conference as opposed to rewarding a team. I think that's nonsense.
You're a pro, because that was the next question. But we'll move into, I think, maybe the biggest question we've asked on this program thus far in our chat, JD. You are elected college football commissioner because this sport so desperately needs one. What is your day one? What's the platform you're running on and your day one agenda?
Oh, man. Day one agenda, I think, would be just what we talked about with the playoff. Like, I'm probably correct on that pretty quick. I'd go back to 4 in a heartbeat. I think 4 was a great number. I never understood us going from 4 to 12, like not even going 4 to 6 or 4 to 8. It was just triple the field. So we're going back to 4. That's the first part of this. Other thing I will do is I'm making sure that we play the national championship game always in the Rose Bowl, and that will be always on New Year's Day. So we're gonna, however, if we got to move the season back a little bit or up, I guess is what I'm saying, to make it start earlier so we can get this all done in a more efficient fashion. We're not playing national title games on February 2nd, whenever it ends up getting there, as I'm sure it will. We go to 16, 18 team playoff. That is rule number 1 for me. Is we're fixing the playoff, we're making it in the Rose Bowl, and then we're probably also tinkering with the portal. I'd be curious to hear y'all's take on this, but I'm more so of the idea we just need one window. We don't need to do 2 separate windows, post spring and pre spring. Like, I think we got to just do one window here, fellas. This is madness. We got Pete Nakos here. I mean, pulling 3 all-nighters a year. Like, we gotta try and shrink that for the guy.
He's built different though. He likes that grind, I think sometimes.
He is, yeah. Definitely.
How about this, JD? We did probe our message board for some questions for you. You are a fan favorite over at the Fort, which is the Wolverines premium message board. Again, use that promo code UM1 for 2 months of access to our site for $1. Let's take this one from Varion K, who says, what is JD's prediction for where Michigan finishes in the Big Ten this season? And do they make the college football playoff?
So as of right now, this is going to get me kicked off the board here, man. As of right now, I'm going to lean they miss the playoff. And that's not because I don't believe in Bryce Underwood. I just told you I think they could be knocking on the back door. I'm going to say they missed the playoff just because I think the Big Ten right now is so loaded. Now, I'm reserving my right to change here. If Bryce Underwood lights up Oklahoma week 2, I'll come back like a desperate ex and asking y'all to take me back. So I'll say that. In terms of where they finish, I can see Michigan finishing right in that 4 spot. Like, I think that's probably a fair assessment for them. I will say I do love the schedule, which makes me feel even funny saying they're not going to make the playoff, because I love the fact that they don't play Penn State, they don't play Oregon. But I think there's more there to give me confidence in those other teams, from Ohio State to Oregon to Penn State. But Michigan in the 4 spot to me is probably where I'll lean right now, boys.
We'll take this one here from Iverson442, who wants to know, how good of an addition was Chip Lindsey, and what do you think his impact will be in year 1?
I think it was a massive addition, which isn't saying a lot. I think the impact you'll see right away is the way that it caters to Bryce Underwood, which is, I mean, not to make this the Bryce Underwood show, but I had a hard time when he committed to Michigan seeing him under center with a fullback and throwing it 15 times. Like that to me just never totally computed. So the thing that gets me excited is the more open offense, also the quarterback design run game for him out of the gun, and having that baked in. Like, whatever he is as a quarterback and a thrower downfield and things of that nature, like how quickly that gels for him as a college quarterback is one thing. But I mean, we've all seen the videos of my guy throwing down back handsprings into backflips, and he's now like 220 some odd pounds. You can hand that guy the football, or you can have him call his own number, hand himself the football, and make some good things happen. So the spreading it out, creating numbers in the box, I'm really, really excited to see what that looks like with Chip Lindsey running the show here in year 1.
And this one's from me, JD. What is your favorite non-football hobby?
Oh, man, that's a good question. That's a really good question. It's funny because I think, much like y'all, before we got to do this for a job, this almost was the hobby. Like, I was trying my best when I was with my wife and she was in the other room, like I'm tweeting something out or I'm posting a video or I'm watching like we're having conversations early on in our marriage about like, hey, there's a lot of spring games this weekend. I'd love to watch those. Is that okay with you? And this is all before we get to do it for a job. So it's almost been a little bit weird, like trying to figure out new hobbies. Having a 6-month-old daughter, though, has simplified the picture for me. It's like we got work, we got 6-month-old duty, which is the best thing in the world. And that's kind of all there is space for right now, to be real. I'm trying to think of anything else, not give you all a boring answer, but I think that's like, I'll DoorDash if that's a hobby. Like I'm a DoorDash just savant these days, boys. I got some spots dialed in, but that's legitimately, as boring as that sounds, that is my life, is college football, 6-month-old baby girl, and DoorDash.
It's funny. There'll be times I'm somewhat freshly married. It's been under a year, but
let's go.
Like, there's still times where she's like, well, he's so complicated. Like I don't know what's on his mind. And I'm just sitting there staring off in the distance going like, they're going to hit the over on this 8.5 this year. Like, is that these are the things that happen throughout the day when I drift off. But yeah, I get that when you're so immersed in it, it's hard to find anything else. Cause even, guys like us, we're every other job. You close the laptop at 4 PM, you punch out at 5 PM, and then you're on to anything else. For us, it's something could drop at 8 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden you got to turn it back on. There's really no, I think part of the thing of being an adult is you find time for yourself to recharge, but we're in it, and it's fun to be that way. It can be difficult at times on a family, but I'd have it no other way.
Isn't that the worst when you get the question, what are you thinking about? And it's like,
I'm kind of worried about stopping John Mateer in week 2, honestly.
Yeah, I'm like,
if you're being honest.
You really want to know what I'm thinking about? You want to know?
Can Evan Link kick step, like what's, different offensive linemen, how are they going to perform? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
It's like, I wish I could give you like a more profound answer, but like I'm going to give you my honest answer, and I'm thinking about who's Michigan starting at tackle this year. Like, is that going to be good enough for a true freshman? I hope he's good enough, but and then it's just like, I can't believe you thought about that. We're on a walk with our 6-month-old baby girl. Like, why is that? Why is that your thought? I was like, I thought this was maybe a lull in the action a little bit here. I wasn't trying to think about this. It just was, this is what's on my mind here. Is what we're doing.
Jim Harbaugh.
On the question was, what do you want for dinner tonight?
Jim Harbaugh said in an interview recently that when he's like doesn't have a great interview or press conference, sometimes he's just thinking about getting the 3-tech blocked. And I think that's kind of that's a good way to put it. JD, you're a guy of takes. You got takes all over the place. You do a great job. Have you tried out and tested out any takes on your daughter? Like when you just got to get one out, you got to see how it sounds, and you're probably doing the daddy duty thing.
Man, we're working. I feel like I joke all the time with our producer Caden Smith. Like, he and I, early on when we first welcomed her into the world, there was a lot of like coming to the office, but then go back pretty quick if we weren't shooting anything. And we do a lot of phone calls to like game plan for a show or topics or whatever. And she would like be crying in the background, and he's like, "Oh, what's her take on this?" And so it kind of became a thing where I've like almost assigned her takes, like, "Hey, she had money on the Penn State over this year," or she picked Ohio State to win the national title this year. So like, she's pretty pumped about what we're talking about right now. So I haven't actually, she's been giving me, I think, better advice as of late, which has been, you can never have too many people adding into, your ear and giving you good things to say. So between the two of y'all and her, I feel like I'm about to have a good year this year, boys. Like we woke up feeling dangerous.
I'm excited. Did Tim Robinson really leave you a voicemail? That was awesome. I saw that this morning. Dude,
it sounded so much like him, didn't it? I thought it did. I can't confirm it was, but I can't.
Is he a Notre Dame fan? Because he's a Lions fan. I know he's from Detroit, obviously.
Yeah. So I guess he'd be a Michigan fan, right?
But I haven't seen him do anything Michigan, so he could be Midwest, maybe Catholic. I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, it sounded uncanny. It was unbelievable.
I love that. I have no idea. If I were a betting man, I'd probably say no, depending on what kind of plus money I'm getting there. But
the clip plays. Yeah.
The clip plays, and nobody can say it wasn't, unless you have his number, as I I have the number that it called from, so someone can like,
What's the
match
area
it up
code?
with. I think I'm okay.
Is it
to say
LA
that.
or
Let's
Detroit?
see.
I feel like those would be the two for a guy like that.
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna
Tim
look
Robinson,
it up
comedian.
so I don't.
For people that don't know, Tim Robinson, comedian, Detroiters, the show, and then I Think You Should Leave on Netflix, which really blew up for people our age. Like Tim Robinson is, king.
Dude,
So the most
why
I
did
can
the
find
Detroiters
for
get
his
off
fandom
the
is
air?
he's a Lions and Pistons fan and a lifelong fan of professional wrestling. So I don't know about
I
college
appreciate
fandom.
that. Okay, so I will, without giving away the actual number itself,
Right.
Central Ohio. So
Ooh.
that was where the call came from, which maybe whittles down the likelihood that it was him. But who's to say? Who's to say?
We got to do some more research.
Detroit
I
was
love
awesome.
it.
Though. I love Detroit. Detroit was so funny.
We Clayton, do you remember we had a guy on our live streams? I don't know, it might have been a year or two ago, but his moniker was Jason Sudeikis, and you'd like make a comment about, Jason Sudeikis is watching the show. I doubt it's the real one, and he'd just be like, no, it's me. But the guy's picture is just him as Ted Lasso. So as far as I know, I mean, Jason Sudeikis, Tim Robinson, we got SNL guys all over this On3 network.
Let's go, dude. Let's go. I love it. It's definitely him. It's got to be him.
It's got to, because the internet is it's all canon. We're kind of up against it here. Clayton, any final questions here for JD?
What's your daughter's wingspan? Do we have one?
Oh man, I don't have wingspan. Last we went to the doctor though, she was 77 percentile in height, which makes no sense. I'm 5'11". My wife is 5'3". So like we're not a tall group. So I'm hoping that tracks the same way. Like 77 percentile. I mean, we're shopping her around for NIL deals here if that holds.
Can I give you a piece of advice as a non-dad?
Please, I need it. Yeah, please.
If she is tall, and let's say she's tall, first, second, third grade, I assume she'll play basketball. A lot of kids do.
Sure.
Do not let her be a 5 right away. You want to be someone who can still handle and still shoot, because odds are, like you said, you're 5'11", your wife's 5'3". She's not going to actually be tall. And if she is, then she's like Kevin Durant potentially, in terms of like a big or a taller player with a guard skill set. So do not box him in. We cannot pigeonhole him. Danny Wolf, exactly. You want a late growth spurt ideally, but if they're tall early, don't. And it's tougher to do because the motor skills are tougher. But I talk about this all the time. You can't pigeonhole them to the center position. Don't let their coaches do it. Just be the coach and don't let it happen.
That's great advice. Okay, I'm gonna timestamp this and send this to my wife and make sure she knows. So we're aligned here on our strategy to get.
She can play some 5, but
Wemby, yeah,
kids
a little.
Aren't learning
much.
post moves anyway, right? Like early in life. So like all they do is stand around the basket, get the rebound, put it back up, miss, get it, put it back up, miss, get it, put it in. Like that's what a center does in third grade. Don't let it happen, JD. 5th grade,
you got to work on the Euro step.
What she's saying is don't let your daughter be the next Angel Reese. Like, got to finish strong at the basket. Too many missed, too much cherry picking, all those types of things. JD Pickell, you can find him every day on the On3 YouTube channel. The Hard Count with JD Pickell. Great stuff, JD. I'd love to check in with you before football season. I know we got our football preview. We'll definitely get you one of those, and we'll be doing the deep dives on the schedule and excited for it. We don't wish, as Chris Ballas says, we don't want to wish our summers away, but once you get to May, you start to get that itch a little bit, and I'm ready for it. So, man, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for joining us today. Great insight, and we'll definitely have you back on soon.
Man, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for having me, and I will absolutely be blowing up both of y'all here in the near future, trying to become smarter about this wacky world that is college football, especially in Ann Arbor. So I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all do the Lord's work, and excited to see y'all on the boards over there.
Thanks, JD.
Wonderful. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest from the Wolverine. Given that we're heading into the summer, probably a few more long-form interviews like this as we record early, enjoy some time out of the office, put this football preview together, all those types of things. So also use that promo code UM1 for 2 months of access to our site for $1. And be sure to pre-order that football preview. All of that info is in the description below. Appreciate you guys so much. For Anthony Broom, JD Pickell, Clayton Safey. I just said for Anthony Broom. I talked to myself in the third person. And our producer, Megan, behind the scenes. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again next time.